Okay, so we're going to continue the daf. We have a new Mishnah. Ezu Asherah Kol Sheish Techteh Avodah Zarah Avodas Kechavah. So the Mishnah asks, we're continuing on Memches, the second Mishnah on Memches Amud Aleph on 48a. Mishnah asks, when the Torah refers to a tree called Asherah, which is an idolatrous tree, a tree that is apparently the tree itself is being worshipped. So when it comes to the tree that's worshipped, the Mishnah asks, Ezehu Asherah. What type of tree is an Asherah? Is a tree that's worshipped. Kol sheish tachteh akum. So he says any tree that has an idol underneath the tree is what the Torah calls Asherah. And again, we see this term really throughout the Bible, this word Asherah. So Rabbi Shimon Aimer kol she'oivden oisa. So the Tanakama, the first opinion of the Mishnah, says that's a tree that has an idol under it, and the idol is separate from the tree. Rabbi Shimon says that it's a tree that's actually worshipped. That if Umaisa B'tzidon, Ilan Sha'ayoiv Denoisoi, Soy Tachtav Gal, Amalan Rabbi Shimon, Badku, as a Gal Azeh, Badku, Mitzu Baitzura. B'Litzura Hein Oivden, Natal Lechem Ilan. So there's a story in Sidon, which is a city, outside of the Holy Land, north of there's Tyre and Sidon, sort of a Sidon. That there was a tree that the Gentile pagans would worship, or they would worship near it, and there was underneath the tree a pile of stones. So Rabbi Shimon told the people, search out this pile of stones. They found a statue within the pile of stones, and he said, this is what they are worshiping and not the tree. So therefore the tree itself does not have a din of Asherah, doesn't have the law of the tree being worshipped, but rather that the idol that's under the tree is worshipped. So it seems it's a machlokas, it's a disagreement in the Mishnah as to how we define an Asherah. And the answer that we have, that Rabbi Shimon holds, is that the Asherah is even if it's the Asherah is only if the tree itself is worshipped, and if what's underneath the tree is worshipped, then the tree itself is not considered an idol. Only the idol itself is prohibited, not the tree. So the Gemara says, Ezu Asherah ha anan shlosh Asherahs hay tana. So the Gemara asks, what is this Mishnah asking? What kind of question is this when we just had our previous Mishnah taught that there are three different categories of Asherah? So why is the Mishnah asking which one? It would seem that what the Mishnah is asking here is, in light of the previous Mishnah, we had three different types of Asherah, three different types of trees involved in worship mentioned in our Mishnah. And then the Mishnah goes back and asks which one is the Asherah. But all three are called Asherah by the previous Mishnah. So Achi Kamashtayim, the Divrei Akol, Achas, Machlokes Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. So the answer is, when it comes to the first two types of trees that are mentioned in the previous Mishnah, the first one being the tree that was planted to be worshipped, that everyone agrees is called Asherah, what the Bible calls Asherah. The second example is a tree that was not planted to be an idol, either grew on its own or it was planted with no particular intention. And then the tree was perhaps it was grafting or whatever it was, and in light of the pruning, whatever grew new, it was worshipped after being pruned. So that one also, everyone agrees, would have a din of an Asherah. And the third one that the Mishnah mentions is the tree that they put an idol underneath the tree. So there is a disagreement between Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis as to whether this is called Asherah. So so which one did Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis disagree about? Any tree that has an idol under it, does that have the din, what we call Asherah? That's the question here. So Rabbi Shimon said no, only if the tree itself is worshipped do we label it Asherah. But if it has an idol under it, according to Rabbi Shimon, it should not have a din of Asherah. It should not be considered Asherah. But according to the rabbis, it should. So Ezehi Asherah Stam. So it would seem that what the Mishnah is asking here, this Mishnah, it seems that Asherah is a colloquial term for any tree that's worshipped. So now, because we know that Asherah means a tree. So the question is, when the Torah discusses Asherah, which one is it talking about? Which one is just simply Asherah? Amarav call Shekomrim Yoshvin Tachtav Ein Termin Repirosa Secha. So Rav's opinion is that an Asherah is a tree where idolatrous priests sit under the tree and they refuse to eat its fruits. Shmuel Amar Afilu, where Shmuel disagrees and he says no, even if they eat the fruit, it could still be called Asherah if the priests, the pagan priests, sit under the tree. So Amahane Tamare Uve Natsurfi also. So for example, the dates that grow in a town called or near a temple called the House of Natsurfi. Those dates that grow in the trees are prohibited. The Rami Beishikra Vishasile Bayam Eino. And specifically from these dates that they make a liqueur or a date beer, however we want to translate this, they make some kind of an alcoholic beverage out of these dates. And it's specifically on their pagan festivals that they drink this particular liquor, this particular, whether it's a brandy, a date brandy, or a date beer, however we want to teach it, however we want to translate it, some kind of an alcoholic beverage made out of dates. They drink only though they specifically go out of their way to drink something that was made from these particular dates, from these particular trees, on their pagan holiday. And so therefore, there's an issue of pagan worship involved with these particular trees. And yet we see that they are consumed. It's just they're only consumed on certain times, it would seem, or they're specifically consumed at certain times. V'shasi Levi Ameidim Amar Meimar said, Amali Savei de Pumadisa Halacha Kishmuel. So Meimar said that he heard from Rav Yehuda and Rav Einan, who were the elders of Pumbedisa, which was the main academy in Babylonia, that the law follows Shmuel, that whether or not it's not only trees where they don't eat the fruit, but even the trees where they do eat the fruit, if the idolatrous priests sit under these trees, said trees are prohibited as shaver. So now we have another Mishnah, which will be on our next daf. So it says Lo Yeshiv Tzila. You're not allowed to sit under the shade of an Asherah. We're on the next number, on Amud Beis. V'yashav tar. However, if one sits under the shade of the Asherah, he is pure. Li'aver tachtav v'aver tameh. One should not walk underneath the shade of an Asherah tree, and if one does, he is impure. However, if the tree is robbing the public, meaning the tree's branches are hanging over into a public thoroughfare, then if one passes under said tree, he is pure. It's not the case when it comes to Kohanim with the actual Tumei Mace, but with the Tumah of Avodah Zarah, it is. I'm always amazed by how in a neighborhood like Kugar and Sills, which is such a Jewish neighborhood, they cannot get rid of the trees on Main Street by the Jewish cemetery. And the Kohanim are not allowed to even really drive over there. They have to totally avoid that area because it's a real issue of Tumas Ohel. However, if it's a tree of Avodah Zarah, a tree that's worshipped, God forbid, and it's extending into a public thoroughfare, there you don't have this issue the way that you would if you would go out of your way to go visit maybe some kind of retreat center or something where the pagans have their special trees. So the Gemara says, L'yeshiv Tzila Pshita. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah tells us you're not allowed to sit under the shade of an Asherah, of a tree that's worshipped. God forbid. So the Gemara says, that's obvious. Why does the Mishnah need to teach us this? The Mishnah is not supposed to state obvious things. Certain things are just common sense. So Rechanas and Yechanan, he said this even applies to the shadow of the shadow. What is it? The shade of the shade. Meaning, obviously you're not allowed to be right under the tree, where if you look up you can see the branches on top of you. That's like Tumas Ohel, where the tree is actually, for example, the tree might protect you from the rain, and obviously it will protect you from the sun. However, we're talking about also, instead of, let's say you have a very tall tree, the tall trees cast a very long shadow, particularly early and late in the day. Closer to noon, the shadows aren't so big, but early and late in the day you have these big shadows. It's quite possible that you're not passing directly under the tree, but the shadow of the tree if you sit not right under the tree branches or next to the trunk, but you're sitting a few feet away from the tree, but because of how low the sun is, the tree is protecting you from the sun, so causing shade on you. So then that's also prohibited to sit down. So does that indicate that if one sits directly under the tree, that one is impure? Loi the filu itzel kemasa nami yoshev tar lokmash malan the filu itzel tzel liyeshev. So you don't, even if you sit directly under the tree, if you sit, you are pure. However, you're still not allowed to sit, either, of course, not directly under the tree, and also not in the extended shadow of the tree. So, again, there's one to teach at the end that if one sits, he is pure. He doesn't receive tumah just from sitting. Even though he's not allowed to do it, he doesn't become tumah. So pshita, that should be obvious. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan Loi Nitzvachal Tzelkei Masa. So Rabbi Yochanan said in Rabbi Yochanan that this only applies sitting directly under the tree. Niklal So that would indicate that no, actually one could sit under the distant, one is allowed to sit under the distant shade. And the prohibition of sitting is only under the directly under the branches. If you look straight up in the sky, you see the branches above you. So, light. No, that's not. So one might think that, and the answer is no, that's not true. You're not allowed to sit even in the extended shade. Hakmash Malan. So this shows us that it's not so. The filut silkemasim yeshiv tar liaver tachta v'maver tamei. That even if one is under the actual directly under the branches of the tree, although one is not allowed to sit there, if one sits there, he is pure. And also one is not allowed to pass under there moving, and if one does, he is impure. My time. So how is that? How is that? I mean, and also the question is, how do you sit under it without passing under it? Is a whole other question. In any event, I ask my time, but what's the reason why we should be strict like this? The answer is it's impossible that there's nothing that was offered to idolatry under the tree. So therefore, what is under the same roof as something that is under the branch of the tree. Mani. So who is this? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. The Sanya, as we taught, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira oimer menayim l'tzkrei v'sa'akum shmetama b'oihel shenamar v'yitzvadu l'val po'or v'yichlu zivchei mesim. So the question is, where do we learn that if something was offered as a sacrifice to an idol, that it has the same law as like being under the same roof as a dead body? So the answer is, we read in Psalm 106 that they worshipped Baal Peor and they ate dead sacrifices. Meis matama b'oihel after krevis akum. So therefore, just as a dead body defiles if you're under the same roof, so too something that was offered to an idol is defiles if one is under the same roof. So therefore, people should be aware of this, because you hear a lot of people poo-pooing this whole Indian with the Indian wigs. And although there are different opinions as to whether or not it has a din of takrivus of Avodah Zarah, the Indian wigs, according to those opinions, that it does have a din of takrivus of Avodah Zarah, which would seem that I would say there is at least a suffix, and we say suffix deraisa l'chumra. There certainly is a major doubt that perhaps there is a din of takrivus of Avodah Zarah when it comes to the hair, because it's offered in a sense. It's something that they sacrifice. Doesn't mean that it has a din of a zevach, perhaps a din of a korban. Maybe yes, maybe no, but it's definitely something that they are sacrificing as part of their devotion to the idol. So it's major questions as to whether or not, and we see how serious this is, because takrivus of Avodah Zarah cannot. There's no din of bittul by takrivus of Avodah Zarah. There's a din of bittul. There is a din that you can nullify an idol, that a pagan, a Gentile can nullify an idol, but a Gentile cannot nullify something that was sacrificed to an idol. The fact that once something is sacrificed to an idol, it becomes totally prohibited, and also it's tama, it defiles just like a dead body. It's like having, even though it's not an isser to be for someone who's a zar, someone not a kohen, to be under the same roof with tumas mace, to be metame boil, to be defiled. It's not a sin. However, at least on a hashkafah level, one should realize with these Indian wigs, it's like you're having an idol. It's like you're having a dead body in your house. It's like a weekend at Bernie's. Is this something you really want to have in your home? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Particularly, when we're talking about Haredish people, we're not talking about weak people who, are struggling to keep Yiddishkeit. We're talking about people who are trying to be as frum as they can be. If you are already, you're being makel to wear a wig at all, it's a big kula, it's a big question whether or not a wig is kosher at all. And if you do want to wear a wig, so you can wear they have some very nice synthetic wigs. You don't need to have a real human hair wig. It's embarrassing that there's even a question like this. That you can have Yingolite who wears streimel and white socks, maybe even pepper the hoisin, and maybe struckers, and their wives are wearing Indian hair sheitlach. That's a major shiloh to takrivus of Avodah Zarah. It's a much worse isser than whatever people say with the smartphones and this and that. The smartphones are how you use it. You can use it for good things like learning Torah, and you can use it for bad things. But you don't need a smartphone to do the bad things, and you don't need a smartphone to learn Torah either. But you can learn Torah on a smartphone, and you can also have business on a smartphone. All kinds of milas that to having a smartphone. There's all kinds of chesroinus. But I can't think of what mila there is to v'dafka have an Indian hair sheitel just because it's a little bit less expensive. Well, it's even less expensive to have a synthetic sheitel. And today the synthetic sheitel look pretty good. Same thing could be spoken about the synthetic shtarmelech, but at least the shtarmelech, there's not an issue of takrivus of Avodah Zarah. We could talk about tashchis and maybe even sarbalachayim. These type of things maybe you might want to discuss. But the thing is, all the hats are made from rabbit fur. The hats that whether the beaver hid, they're not made of beaver anymore. or the fedoras that were in the literature community, for the most part, people are wearing rabbit fur felt because they don't want to issue of shatnez to wear a wool hat, even though there are nice wool felt hats. And also, Hasidic Olam, they try to avoid wool altogether anyway, if possible, especially like the Rebbe, except for the tzitzis and talis, but everything else, they do try to avoid wool. There is such an Indian, especially in the old days. Even if today it's not as machmir about it, especially that we can check for shatnez. But these are things. At least you should stop and think and ask a competent posek. And if your posek says it doesn't have a din of tekrivus of Avodah Zarah, so you have the prerogative to listen to your posek. You don't have to be machmir more than your posek says. But also you should be aware that there are something that people should be aware. We're dealing with Hinduism, is that there are many different types of Hinduism, and the Indian here could be coming from several different cults. In general, scholars of world religion will say that Hinduism is not a single religion, but rather it is a family of religions that have some similarities, but each local form of Hinduism is quite different. We can do a little bit of comparative religion to compare what we have, Judaism, how there always were local customs that existed in various Jewish communities, not only talking about Sephardic and Ashkenazic, and not only talking about the major various groups between the Middle Eastern Sephardim versus the Spanish and Portuguese, the Iberian Sephardim, and the difference between the German Jews and the Lithuanian Jews and the Hasidic Jews and the various Hasidic courts. But really, essentially, especially since there wasn't as much unity, we didn't have technology we have today, each community tended to have, certainly in earlier days, their own local customs, their own local takanos, their own local ideas. Which you don't really have, in America as much, except where you have these communities that are more or less monolithic, like the Breuers community in Washington Heights, the German community that strives to maintain the ancient German customs, or the various Hasidic courts, the various Sephardic communities that, are particularly, in keeping with the customs of the Bukharians and the Persians have the various communities. If you're, Hamadani and Shirazi and Tehrani and Mashhadi, each of them, they have their particular customs. So too, the Syrians and the Halavi and the various different groups of the Syrians and the various different groups of the Yemenites, Baladi and so forth. So all of the different communities that you have, and so too was in Ashkenaz and in Europe. Different communities had their own local customs, and so too when it came to Erevin, Mikvahos, and and so forth. Each community had their chumras and kulos that applied in their community that didn't extend to the community. So to with kashrus, so to when we talk about the differences between these communities, so when they came to America or to Israel, it was more like a melting pot. So then you didn't have, essentially, I mean, this is a big answer why in Judaism we have, things are tending to be going to the right altogether, especially in America and in Israel, both throughout Orthodoxy, both in the Haredi world and in the modern Orthodox world. And, there is some pushback to this as well, but essentially the reason for that is as follows: because they're trying to satisfy the stringencies of all the different communities. So if there was a particular standard for a Erev or for mikvah in a particular town in Lithuania, and now in America it's considered unacceptable, and we try to, get all the different stringencies. The reason is because we want to reach the highest common denominator of all these different opinions. Now, this could perhaps also be the case with Hinduism in America. This is why I'm bringing this up here. And that I'm not that knowledgeable. I'm not a scholar of Hinduism, but I would assume that in America you're going to have a form of Hinduism that is a little bit more monolithic, because people are coming from all different places. They're going to try to develop a form of Hinduism that will satisfy all of the different Hindus that live in a particular area. Meaning, if they're going to build a Hindu temple somewhere in America, and you have a community that's rather diverse, I don't know, maybe, when you have big enough communities, you could have different Hindu temples. But, in general, I would think in America, it's not a tremendously big community. It's much smaller than the Jewish community, the Hindu community in America, even though the Hindu community in the world is much, much larger than the Jewish community, obviously. When you come to America, and they're trying to, so the point, what I'm saying is, you can't make a tzushtel, you can't make a proper comparison in Jewish law and say, because that you asked in the local Hindu temple in America or in England or somewhere, or in Australia, and they gave you this answer that really doesn't bear any importance to how Hinduism is practiced in a particular community in India, and which particular temple the hair is coming from, where there are various temples, and each temple could have a different rite and a different ideology and so forth, a different theology. There are Hindus that are essentially monotheist, but seeing various avatars of the same monotheism. It's still idolatry. It's still Avodah Zarah al pi halacha. However, maybe it's a din of Shita or whatever. There's machlokas, but still, you would still have the Isser of Takrivus of Avodah Zarah. If is considered a korban, but then there's a machlokes whether it is or isn't. So these are the type of issues you have to see. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he decided Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira on Manayan, the curves of Shim and Tamra, oil, Shanamar, Yitzmanu, Balkor, Vichus of Chemesa, we had this already. Ma Mesa Matam oil after Kurvas Akum, Matam oil. We said already that just as the dead body, that there's a comparison between something that's offered to an idol and a dead body. So the Mishnah continues that if the tree, the branch of the tree went over into a public thoroughfare and one walked under it, then they would be pure. So the question is, are we only talking if one already passed under it? Not that one should, but if one did? Or are we talking that one may, in the first place, ipso facto? Are we talking post facto, that one already walked under? Or are they saying ipso facto, that essentially one may walk under such a tree if it is robbing the public by extending it to a public thoroughfare? So Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar Mishmei de Chizkiah Amar, Yitzchak ben Elazar said the name of Chizkiah, Oiver. He said, ipso facto, one may pass under the branches of said tree if it is indeed robbing the public, essentially, by going over a public thoroughfare. So Rabbi Yochanan holds that no, it only is in the case if one already passed under it, then one is pure, but one should not do so. The answer, like Pligi, it really is not a disagreement between these two Amaroyim. Ha deika dircha achrina, ha deleka dircha achrina. So the case where there is somewhere else you could go, you could avoid it. So then it's then you're not allowed to pass under it. But if you did, you're pure. But if you have nowhere other way to get to where you're going other than passing under this tree, so then you're allowed to pass under it. Amalei Rav Sheshis L'Shmaya. Rav Sheshis was blind, and he told his shamus, his servant, Matis Lahasim Aritini. When we pass by this under this Asherah, let's run a little bit. I'm not saying we can't pass on, but let's not spend too much time there. Echidami. So what difference does it make? What are we talking about? Either Leka Dircha Chrin Lamo Aritini Mishrei Shari. Either Dircha Chrin Kama Aritini Mishari. So the question, what are we talking about here? If there's no other place, why run? You're allowed to go. If there's another place, you're not allowed to go. So what's the story about running? So I'm the lake of So he says the story with Rav Sheshis asking his attendant to help him run a little bit. He's talking about where there is no other path. Adam Chashav Shiny. Excuse me. And a distinguished person like Rav Sheshis, even if he's allowed to pass under it, he should hurry a little bit, because we don't want people to see it passing there. Essentially, is what and he shouldn't spend time under there more than necessary. So we have a new Mishnah. In the winter, one can plant under the shade of an Asherah, but not in the summer. And lettuce cannot be planted there neither summer nor winter. And Rabbi Yossi says even in the winter you shouldn't plant vegetables under it because the branches fall off. And when the branches fall off, leaves fall off, and so forth, this becomes fertilizer for the vegetables, so it's a problem even in the winter. So the Gemara goes on, remember, discuss Rabbi Yossi Savar Zeva Zegorim Asa Rabbana Amrei Zeva Zegorim Motu. So it's like this. Rabbi Yossi holds if two things are causing something to happen, and without one of them it wouldn't happen, you're not allowed to use it. Whereas the rabbis say, no, you are allowed. You're allowed to use these things because maybe not both of the essential ingredients are going to be there. So this should seem to be the opposite. It's not a Yosef Rishaychik V'Zayra V'Achar Mataliyah. Why Afi Nasa Zabel Shenema V'Nemar Yidbak V'Achar V'Achar. So let's remember the mission we had a few days ago that Rabbi Yossi says you could crush up idols and throw them in the wind or throw them in the sea. And the sages say no, then they're gonna be fertilizer, and you're not allowed to have any benefit from it. You're not allowed to have anything attached to your hand from these forbidden things. So kasha the Rabbanan, kasha Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yossi. So it shows it seems to be a contradiction. Rabbis are self-contradicting and Rabbi Yossi self-contradicting. Shalom Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Yossi the kasha the kozlev. So Rabbi Yossi it's not really an issue because it's going to be destroyed and matir. So then that's the whole idea is to destroy the idol. It's not an idea to make it into fertilizer or something. Here with this case where it's not being destroyed, the tree is just a plant. There it's prohibited because he's getting the tree branches are prohibited. So, meaning, and he's not destroying the tree, it's just something that's happening on its own. So, the Rabbanan kasha, but the rabbis are self-contradicting. The Gemara answers, Ipuch. No, it seems like it's just the opposite. What it means? We boy say Malay Tepuch, or you might say it's not the opposite. Rabbi Yossi Kiddushin. Rabbi Yossi, we have the answer already, like we just said, the Rabbanan, because I'm Mari B'dir of Kahana. And the rabbis are following with Mari, the son of Kahana, taught. Ma Shemashbiach Ma'or Poigim Basar. That whatever makes the skin better destroys the flesh, damages the flesh. Hacha Nami Kirtu Mashmashbiach Nivaya Poigim B'Tseil. So, for example, here, we're just breaking out even. So you're losing the shade, but you're gaining fertilizer. So it's basically even. You're not really gaining anything. So Rabbi Yossi really hold that if two things are causing something, it's prohibited. It's not. We have a mission of Rabbi Yossi Omer, Noitin Yicher Shel Orla, Vein Noitin Egois Shel Orla. You're allowed to plant a yichur. I don't know what is a yichur. I guess it's some kind of a bush that doesn't grow fruit. I'm not sure what it is. So I have to look it up. We'll probably look it up tomorrow. But Orla means the first 3 years before you're allowed to eat it. But you cannot plant a nut tree, Orla. Because the nut is a fruit. Rav Yehuda Marav, and Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. Moide Rabbi Yosi she'im nata behivrich behirkiv mutter. But Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav that Yosi agrees that if one would cut it and graft it, that's the word we forgot. If he planted it, cut it, grafted, then it would be permitted to eat from it and have benefit. We learn similarly that if you plant it like this, then it's permitted. Alright, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe.